There's a man you've seen before. He doesn't text first. He doesn't show up unannounced. He doesn't rearrange his entire schedule just because someone smiled at him. And somehow, he's the one they can't stop thinking about. You know who I'm talking about. Maybe you've been around him. Maybe you've watched it happen and couldn't explain it. Or maybe, and this is the one that really stings, maybe you used to be him, and somewhere along the way you forgot. Because here's what nobody tells you when you're young and full of wanting things: the men who stop chasing aren't cold. They're not playing games. They're not following some script from a self-help book they read on a Tuesday night. They just decided something. Quietly. Without announcing it. And that decision changed everything. This video isn't about tricks. It's not about manipulation. It's about a shift in the way a man sees himself, and once you understand it, you won't be able to unsee it. Let's start with something most men never stop to ask themselves. Why do you chase? Not in a philosophical way. Not some abstract question about human nature. I mean concretely, what is happening inside you in the moment you start chasing someone? Because if you're honest with yourself, really honest, chasing isn't about her. It never was. Chasing is about anxiety. It's about the unbearable feeling that something you want might slip away if you don't move fast enough, say the right thing, show up enough times. Chasing is fear wearing the costume of desire. And here's what's brutal about that: the more you chase, the more you confirm, to yourself, and to her, that you are someone who is afraid of losing. And people don't build their lives around men who are afraid of losing. They build their lives around men who are at peace with the possibility of it. That's not cruelty. That's just how human attraction works, underneath all the noise. Think about it like water. Water doesn't chase the riverbank. It moves at its own pace, follows its own weight, carves its own path. And the riverbank? It shapes itself around the water. Not the other way around. The man who doesn't chase isn't withholding love. He's already full. And fullness, real fullness, is one of the rarest things a person can feel in someone else's presence. Most people walk around empty, looking for someone to fill them. And that emptiness is visible. You can feel it in a text sent at 11 p.m. that didn't need to be sent. You can feel it in the extra explanation, the overjustification, the laugh that comes just a little too eager. The man who doesn't chase. He's already somewhere good inside himself. And that alone, makes him magnetic. But let's not romanticize this too quickly. Because most men who learn to stop chasing didn't start there. They got there the hard way. There's usually a moment. A specific one. You don't forget it even when you try. Maybe it was a message you sent that was left unread for 3 days. Maybe it was someone you rearranged your entire life for, who left anyway. Maybe it was the slow, quiet realization that the more you gave, the less they seemed to value what you were giving. That moment doesn't just hurt. It teaches. And what it teaches, if you're paying attention, is this: you were never really chasing her. You were chasing a version of yourself that felt worthy. You were trying to earn something through effort that was never meant to be earned that way. Love isn't a performance review. Nobody owes you connection because you worked hard enough for it. And I know that's uncomfortable to sit with. Because if effort doesn't guarantee return, then what does? If showing up perfectly and saying the right things and being consistent isn't enough, what is? Yourself. Unedited. Unoptimized. Not performing. Here's the thing about wounds, though. They either turn you bitter or they turn you inward. Bitter men punish women for what one woman did. That's not what we're talking about here. That path leads nowhere worth going. The men who truly stopped chasing, they went inward. They sat with the discomfort. They asked harder questions. They stopped blaming the person who left and started asking who they were when nobody was watching. That's not a small thing. That's actually everything. Because identity built on solitude is different from identity built on validation. One collapses when the approval disappears. The other doesn't. And that's the root of it. That's where this whole thing starts, not with a strategy, not with a rule. With a reckoning. So what actually changes in a man when he stops chasing? Because from the outside, it can look like indifference. It can look like ego. People mistake it for coldness, for emotional unavailability, for some kind of damage that never healed right. But that's not what it is. What changes is the source. Before the shift, a man's sense of self is external. It lives in her response. It lives in how the date went, in whether she texted back, in the look on her face when he walked in. His inner world is constantly being updated by someone else's behavior. And that means his inner world is never stable. It's always reactive. Always waiting. After the shift, the source moves inside. It's not dramatic. It doesn't happen overnight. But at some point, a man starts making decisions based on what he actually wants rather than what might impress someone. He starts filling his days with things that matter to him. He builds something. He commits to something. He wakes up and his first thought isn't about her, it's about the work, the vision, the life he's constructing. And here's the quiet paradox at the center of all of this. The moment a man becomes genuinely less focused on being chosen, he becomes far more likely to be chosen. Not because he's playing a game, but because people are drawn to direction. They're drawn to someone who knows where they're going and doesn't need company to justify the journey. Think about the last time you were in a room with someone who was completely at ease with themselves. Not arrogant. Not performing confidence. Just settled. Present. Unbothered in the deepest sense of that word. You felt it, didn't you? Something in the room shifted around them. That's not charisma as a skill. That's identity as a foundation. And it's something that cannot be faked, cannot be rehearsed, and cannot be shortcut. The shift isn't about becoming someone new. It's about stopping the performance of someone you were never really meant to be. And when that performance ends, when a man finally exhales and just stands in who he actually is, everything around him starts to respond differently. There's a word that gets misused a lot. Confidence. Everyone talks about it like it's a feeling you either have or you don't. Like some men were born with it and others have to fake it until it arrives someday. But that's not what confidence actually is. Not the real kind. Not the kind that lasts. Real confidence is a practice of returning to yourself. Over and over again. In the moments when everything in you wants to reach out, to check, to confirm, to chase. The discipline is in the pause. In the breath before the reaction. In the decision to stay rooted when instinct tells you to move. That sounds simple. It is not simple. Because the urge to chase isn't just emotional, it's biological. Your nervous system reads uncertainty as threat. When someone you're attracted to goes quiet, something ancient inside you fires up and says, move. Do something. Resolve this. And the man who doesn't chase has learned, through repetition, through failure, through a lot of quiet nights, to let that alarm ring without answering it. Not because he doesn't care, but because he trusts himself more than he trusts the anxiety. That's the discipline. Sitting inside the discomfort of uncertainty without letting it drive your behavior. Most men never develop this. They outsource their emotional regulation to whoever they're interested in. She's warm, he's calm. She's distant, he's spiraling. His entire internal weather system is determined by someone outside of him. The man who doesn't chase has decoupled those two things. His inner state and her behavior are no longer the same conversation. And that decoupling, that quiet, unglamorous, daily practice of coming back to yourself, is what people feel when they're around him. It's not mystery. It's not tactics. It's not even intentional most of the time. It's just a man who has learned to live inside himself without needing to escape into someone else's attention. And in a world full of people desperately escaping, that kind of stillness doesn't just attract people. It stops them in their tracks. Here's something nobody talks about in these conversations. What does a man actually do with all that energy he stops spending on chasing? Because it has to go somewhere. Energy doesn't disappear. It redirects. And this is where the story gets interesting. This is where the man who doesn't chase starts becoming someone genuinely worth being around, not because he's performing worth, but because he's actually building it. He reads. Not to impress anyone, not to have something to say at dinner. He reads because his mind is hungry and feeding it matters to him. He trains, not to look a certain way for someone else's eyes. He trains because discipline in the body creates discipline in the mind, and he knows it. He works on something that outlasts the moment. A business, a craft, a skill, a vision. He starts showing up for his friendships. Really showing up, not as distraction, not as an audience for his own loneliness, but as someone present and reliable. He gets quieter publicly and louder internally. And this is the part that surprises people who witness it from the outside. They expect a man who stops chasing to become isolated, withdrawn, cold. Instead, he becomes warmer, more present, more genuinely interested in the people actually in his life. Because here's what chasing does to a man that we rarely name directly: it makes him self-absorbed. Not in an arrogant way, in a desperate way. When you're chasing, every conversation is filtered through one question: how is this landing? Every interaction becomes a performance evaluation. When you stop, you actually start listening. You start noticing things. The way a person talks about their childhood when they think you're not paying attention. The things they laugh at when nothing is at stake. The small details that tell you who someone actually is beneath the version they present. That kind of attention, unhurried, unpressured, genuinely curious, is extraordinarily rare. And people feel seen by it in a way that bypasses every defense they have. The man who doesn't chase isn't mysterious because he's withholding. He's magnetic because he's genuinely there. Fully. Without agenda. Without the static of wanting something so badly that he can't hear anything else. That's what he builds instead of chasing. A life that makes him someone worth finding. If you've made it here with me, all the way to this point in the video, I want to pause for just a second. Not to break the flow, but to say something real. Hit that subscribe button. Come be part of this channel. We put out content every single day, and it's built for men who are done with surface-level answers. Men who want to think deeper, live with more intention, and build something that actually lasts. If that's you, and I have a feeling it is, because you're still here, then you already know this content is different. So stay close. Now, where were we? Right. The man who builds a life worth finding. Because here's what I want you to understand before we close this out, and this is the part that most people miss entirely. This isn't a strategy you adopt for 6 weeks until someone notices you. This isn't a phase. This isn't a version of you that you perform and then quietly abandon when someone finally gives you the attention you were looking for. This is a permanent reorientation. And the reason it has to be permanent is simple: people feel the difference between a man who has genuinely changed and a man who is temporarily behaving differently to get a result. Women especially. They've been reading subtext their entire lives. They will feel the moment your stillness becomes impatience. The moment your groundedness becomes a mask. The moment the chase starts again underneath the surface, dressed up in patience. You cannot fake this long enough for it to matter. Which means the only real path forward is the one that asks the harder question. Not, how do I stop chasing her? But, who am I becoming when nobody is watching? What am I building that I would be proud of regardless of who shows up to see it? Because the man who can answer that question honestly, the man who is genuinely living that answer, he doesn't need to chase. The life he's building does the work for him. I want to leave you with something simple. Not a list. Not a framework. Just a thought that I hope stays with you longer than this video does. Every man who has ever chased desperately was chasing something real. The desire for connection, for belonging, for someone to look at you and choose you, that's not weakness. That's one of the most human things there is. But there's a difference between wanting connection and needing validation. And that difference, quiet as it is, shapes everything. The decisions you make. The people you attract. The life you end up living. The men who stop chasing don't stop wanting. They just stop leaking. They hold something inside themselves that used to spill out the moment someone interesting walked into the room. And over time, that contained energy becomes something else entirely. It becomes presence. It becomes depth. It becomes the kind of gravity that doesn't announce itself. You've met men like that. Maybe you couldn't explain at the time why they stayed in your memory. Now you know. They weren't trying to be remembered. They were just fully themselves. And in a world where almost everyone is performing almost everything, that is genuinely rare. Rare enough to stop you. Rare enough to make you think. Rare enough to make you want to be around it, even when you can't name why. So the question I'll leave you with isn't about her. It isn't about them. It isn't about who's watching or who's not. The question is simply this. Who are you when there's nothing to chase and nobody to impress? Because that man, that version of you, unbothered and unhurried and quietly building, that's the one worth becoming. Not for anyone else. Just because it's true. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. If this video made you think even a little, hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow. We do this every day. Share this with 5 men in your life who need to hear it. Not the ones who are loud about it. The quiet ones. They'll know what to do with it. And leave a comment below. Not just a thumbs up, a real one. Tell me what hit different. Tell me what you're still sitting with. And if there's a topic you want me to go deep on next, drop it down there. I read them. I build from them. See you tomorrow.